Hello, everyone, and I hope you're doing well. Coming at you with some more stocks, giving you an update. I was drained on SPY, and I think this could be a 50-minute video if I were to go into detail about it. But a couple of things from what I learned here, and I'm just gonna cover it kind of shortly. So I expected there to be a second drop, right? With this being the first or the bottom of the first, right? And I did not expect it or see in the sequence it coming up this point unless it was ready for that bullish priority, right here. As you can see, it broke up when it came up this high. But what we're seeing actually is it's breaking down, right? And also, I'm not sure if any of you do trade S curves a lot, but if you'll notice something on SPY that's been happening recently, and it was reminiscent of this area too, whenever you think that the S curve is going to go up, like it's going to break up and go high, it actually just crashes, right here. And it's the same instance for this entire section because this was setting up for a giant S curve up. Right? It was setting up for a big S curve up. And it made that higher high. You see that 4-hour candle on the very edge there, that green candle? And then after that, it's coming down. And so what I think this is really meaning is we're actually witnessing the sequence catch up with itself. And this moment, which I never expressed publicly, but I thought that this area here was a macro move. Like this was a very important breakout point for the stock or for the market, really. And it was part of a larger bullish structure that had to be met, I think, right? And what we're seeing is the inverse of this, right? So if you were to look at this and be like, what's the inverse of this? Well, it would be break down, right? Come all the way up, make that V, and then, make a lower low, and then keep going down, right? And what are we seeing here? We're seeing that. Right where it should have broken up. Right here, it should have gone. But it didn't. So now what I'm thinking we do is we get a full recovery, and then we come down, and it's very bearish, right? If it wants to maintain that fractal priority really and be bullish, we would need to see it make a new high, really. And I guess hold that. So it would take a couple of weeks to really see what it wants to do here, but this would make sense if it was a bearish priority and the market is completely changing, because these gaps here should have been filled from this structure. But do you know what if this structure played out exactly how the past played out, this would have meant that it would have entered a new bullish period, right? But it shortcutted. And now what I think it's doing is it was saving itself for the priority switch to fill all of these gaps, because this breakout point here is pretty large, and so if we wanted to really invert that with some like yield for error or whatever, it would come down, it would be able to fill this gap here, right? And the big thing is that if it were to come down to this gap and then stop and then play out the inversion of this, right? Then we would basically see another V recovery, and then we would actually replay out this entire run, and the sequence would catch up with it, would like basically be close to itself again. And so kind of look something like this. Like it would just be brutal, honestly, and it would just completely retrace this whole structure. So it's very confusing. I don't really know if I'm gonna make a lot of videos on it, tracking it until I can gain some confidence over the next few weeks. Just testing a few things, but I still have money from when I made, profit off of this drop here, and I made this video most importantly to go over my AMC trade because I am going to go back into it, and I'm not sure if I really expressed this publicly as well, but I bought shares and a lot of calls on, I think, this day here on the 8th of May. And I actually got out and looked for more money literally the day before this. I knew something was happening. I knew it, and I didn't stick with it. Now, am I going to suffer because of that pride here, and will AMC follow the rest of the market? Maybe. What I've done here is taken off the adjustment and put on the actual measurement of the chart, so it acts as if the reverse split was an actual gain on the day, or that's what it looks like, right? And you can see here that we're in this channel separated by two gaps, with the top being 1264 and the bottom being 220. And if we go back to January, you can see at the bottom of this channel was pretty important and actually held some weight before the breakout here, which was January. Now, interestingly enough, this spike that we got here does look like January. And this whole time, I've been thinking that it is reminiscent of January, and we are playing into June next. Kinda, right? It is a little scary because the bottom was not tested. It really wasn't. Now, if you want to go and make the argument that the bottom was well tested back here, okay, sure. But since then, there has been a reverse split, and value is kind of trapped here and not really genuine, because this is basically what, 20 something cents at this point. But if you want to go on that end and be like, well, if it hit 20 cents, which would be before the split, then it was tested. It did test this area well enough, right? But that's not to say that I believe that there are a lot of bullish marks to the upside. And one of the things that I've been paying attention to this whole time, and I've never forgotten, has been this gap here, the 38.97 gap, which I've marked, I have it marked with the red line, right? And then what I'm going to do is turn on the adjusted chart again and look where that gap is, right? So the gap is basically after that whole court ordeal, and then it gapped down after that. So, and then we follow that red line back even more, and you can see that how oddly specific this like it marks the strength of the stock. I just think it's very weird. I think it's an algorithmic thing. And the real question I have is, will it treat that gap presently and relatively as 38.90 what's the word I want to use? as a as a fixed variable, right? Or is it non-fixed, and does it want to treat where the gap originally formed here, and this would be 206. Does it want to go that high? I don't think so. But these daily gaps here, 85, 62, why are they there? It's weird, you know? And I think this gap here isn't even on the pre-split chart. Yeah, so it would actually be here. Hold on, let me I feel like I'm entering the matrix, which is why it's like really feels really weird. I'm gonna mark it yellow. So what does this look like on the actual chart? Like what? Okay, so let's see. Okay. Well, that's weird. It's really weird. So the reason why this trade is scary though is because of the overall market looking like it is a bearish priority, or there is a priority switch. And so is the excuse of a rotation sector good enough, and is there actually, you know, some conspiracy with the with shorting on this stock and GameStop as well, because they do move in tandem kind of, and no one can really explain that logically. Right, like they're completely different companies, but if GameStop squeezes, odds are AMC is going to have a moment. And so I'm playing AMC, not GameStop, because I don't know. I feel like the IV on AMC is a lot lower than GameStop, and you know, if it were to squeeze a lot here, it'd be a lot of good money from AMC, and I don't really know where GameStop's gonna go. I mean, genuinely. Um, I just don't. I mean, this looks like an S curve here that didn't finish. Right? And so could it actually begin to squeeze and do basically repeat the past? I don't know. This gap at 72 is interesting to me. We'll see. But I'm not going to play it because IV's too high. So my position on AMC is I have shares. I have a lot of shares. And I have 150 January 27 calls. Now, most likely, if I see this going south, I will sell the calls and keep the shares. Because if the amount of shares that I have, if it were to reach this 36 eventually, right, and I end up being a bag holder, well, then I'll still come out with something, right? And I'd rather see if I can make use of that call money elsewhere. But that is kind of what I've been thinking. I think AMC is about to replay January. Now, fractal wise, I'm not too sure what it wants to do here. Shit. Man. Let's go back. So this is basically where I think we're playing, is this area here. It just doesn't look really similar to me. Now this looks like it could be a pretty large S-curve. Wait. Right? It could do that. Which would then be this. And then but at the same time, it could be a very small iteration of this because we have these three higher highs here with the spike up. So we could see a pullback and then a launch up. But if that were to be the case, it really wouldn't go that high considering how small it is. So, but yeah, my personal target is going to be 38.97. And that's where I would sell my calls at, and then I would hold shares for greater numbers. So that's my strategy. That's what I want to do. I don't know if it's going to work out because of just, I don't know if I want to call it manipulation or just genuine crap value, but there is a lot of bearish weights on this stock, and it's a difficult one to play because it seems like even if there was 99% shareholder ownership, it doesn't mean anything because there are systems in place to control that from having impact. Because if you could just get a bunch of people to buy a stock and hold it to increase the value infinitely, then the US stock market would be a load of bull. And so you have to have an algorithm in place that negates that kind of impact. And so the question is there something greater that has a greater impact than that shareholder value that will push this up to extreme heights? Will it be genuine fundamentals? Will it be some criminal thing exposed? Is there actually naked shorting that will need to be recalled? What's going on? I don't know. But something looks fishy here, and I have a feeling, and I'm hoping that it's right. And if not, then who knows? It would probably go down and make an all-time low. And GameStop obviously would do the same. And that would kind of confirm that the market is in a priority switch and that there is no such thing, or nobody cares about a rotation sector or a rotation sector rotation. So yeah, we'll see where it goes. I wish y'all luck. Wish myself luck too, honestly. That's all I have for you. So until next time, peace.